Greetings, mortals. I am Warevo once again, and welcome to Spyro the Dragon, the demo. Today, we're going to be doing something a little different. See, I had a bunch of old PlayStation Underground CDs that my brother had given me when I was a kid. Among them was a demo of Spyro the Dragon, which was in with a bunch of demos of a bunch of other stuff. But today, I'm going to be playing a little game with you guys. We're going to have a little scavenger hunt. I want you guys to contrast and compare this version of the game, which is based on a prototype, with the previous video and the next video. And I want you guys in the comments to tell me how many differences between the two versions you can spot. I am not going to give any answers. It's up to you guys. Happy hunting. Now, there is one difference I am going to point out when we get to it, but that's because I want to talk about that one difference specifically.
Thank you for releasing me. Free the dragons in the artisan world, then seek out the balloonist. He'll transport you to the next world.
What about Nasty Nork?
That's all I can tell you.
Don't know if you guys have noticed or not, but most of the dragons, not all, but most of them, seem to have similar to identical appearances and designs in the original game. In the reignited version, they fixed that, and a lot of the dragons, most of the dragons, if not all, have unique and fun little quirky designs. But in this version, most of them are very similar, and I believe a lot of them are really just palette swaps. Do you guys remember the very first game you ever played versus the first game you ever beat? For me, the first game I ever beat, as I mentioned in one of my early videos, was Ape Escape. The first game I ever played was actually Spyro the Dragon. And my first exposure to it was through this demo. Now, I'll be more specific. The specific version I had was on a PlayStation Underground. I think it was a Jampack, which had like 15 other games along with it. But that demo did not have like all the fancy intro stuff. It didn't have that little video at the beginning. But it made me fall in love with the game enough that I asked Mom for the full game, and she went out and bought it for me. And the same story is true with Ape Escape. Now, right up here, I want you guys to pay close attention, because this is, I think, the only difference I'm going to actually discuss.
Press the jump button twice to glide, and don't be afraid.
Of what?
Falling from high mountain peaks, plummeting into prehistoric glaciers, crashing through...
Oh, that.
The last little bit that dragon said at the end. The crashing through. Every time I play this game and I free that dragon, by pure instinct, I always expect to hear that version of the line. But sadly, in the final version, the crashing through section was cut, which kind of makes the dragon's delivery of the line a little awkward, because it just kind of abruptly cuts, and then Spyro says, "Oh, that." To me, it doesn't sit well, but I can't really complain because it's a 25-year-old game. And honestly, who complains about 25-year-old games? James Rolfe. I will say the Reignited trilogy is far superior in many respects. The graphics are better. It has a newer soundtrack that has both the dynamic and non-dynamic, which, to be honest, I still haven't figured out what the difference is between dynamic and non-dynamic. It also has the option, as I said before, of choosing the original soundtrack, which is what you're hearing now. And while there are a lot of good things to say about the Reignited version, there are also a good few things I have to complain about. Such as some of the parts of the original version that were insanely difficult, they accidentally made a whole lot harder. Which I kind of understand because they did not have access to the original source code and had to start completely from scratch. Which also excuses the lack of a difference between the active camera and the passive camera, which are still pretty much the same thing. There are also a few sounds in the Reignited that are missing. Like that sound right there. When you bash into the goats and the noise they make, that sound is different in the Reignited trilogy. Which, again, difference they had. I've been over that already. But they do also have the option to choose between a three-dimensional, more redesigned and sleek Spyro, or the original polygonal Spyro that you see before you. Which I like to swap between the two when I'm playing Reignited, because it gives me a nice little bit of nostalgia. But now that I have the original discs for Spyro 1, 2, and 3, if I want real nostalgia, I can just come back and play this. Now, you guys remember playing Ape Escape, how I mentioned there were some sections of the game that I missed as a kid or didn't do right. Because, you know, being a kid, being stupid. Well, this game has plenty of those times as well, and this is one of them. This section here, as a kid, I only found because I jumped off out of pure boredom. Imagine my surprise when I see, oh, there's a beach here. Oh, wait a minute. There's gems. Oh, let's go in this cave. Hey, there's chests down here. I was supposed to come down here. Who would know that? Honestly, who would be able to figure something like that out? Unless they're bored like I was. Now, you'd think the whirlwind on the other side of the railing would have been a dead giveaway. Hey, there's something down here. Come check it out. But I was a kid. I was stupid. Anyone who knows me today knows I am absolutely crazy about dragons. I love dragons. And if I'm being honest, I have to give credit to Spyro for that. I think a lot of us today who grew up in the 90s, I think a lot of us can credit Spyro for our love of dragons. Let's all be honest with ourselves. Really, come on. Another thing that always drove me nuts about this game as a kid, that's gotten much easier over time, is dealing with those little blue thieves. Which you'll see here in a few minutes these days, I don't have much of a problem with the thieves anymore. Mainly because I've learned the whole charge and flame thing. But back in the day, I didn't know you could use the flame to increase your attack distance just a little bit. And there were a lot of thieves back then that gave me no end of trouble. Most of them came in later in the game, especially the ones with the keys. And there are some that I'll point out in later episodes, but there are a good number of thieves that can be very, very tricky to deal with. The thieves on the supercharge ramps are the hardest ones to deal with. Because when you're on a supercharge ramp, you can't use the charge flame technique that easily. Because most of the time, if you're on a supercharge ramp, you let go of the charge button, you lose your charge. And in levels like, is it the treetops level? I think it was the treetops level. Worlds like that where you're suspended up high in the air, kind of like the Wabi Sabi Wall level in Ape Escape, where you make one wrong step, you're falling to your doom. You combine worlds like that with a supercharge ramp, it's even worse. Because then, you're suspended high in the air in a world with no floor, going 100 miles an hour in the air. If your aim is not perfect, you're gonna hit an object and you're not gonna have anything underneath you to catch you. I wasted so many lives in the treetops level because of that. Between that and those stupid monkeys that would kick you and push you off the platform. Another neat little difference between the original trilogy and the Reignited trilogy is their treatment of the fodder animals. In the original trilogy, when you destroy them, they just kind of disappear. In the Reignited trilogy, most of them, especially the sheep, have little animations based on whether or not you flamed them or whether you charged them. In the Reignited trilogy, if you flame the sheep, their wool will burn off and they'll just kind of stand there for a second before disappearing. In the original trilogy, they just simply disappear. Also, I think I talked about this in the last episode a little bit, but I want to elaborate more on it. The Reignited trilogy's treatment of the dragons. In the original trilogy, most of the dragons have the same exact body type and all that, where the only difference between them is the colors. In the Reignited trilogy, the dragons, most of them have various differences in their body types. Some are fat, some are incredibly skinny, some are tall, there's a couple I think that are short. You see a wider variety among the body types of the dragons in the Reignited trilogy. And they even went so far as to give them, some of them, like little objects and stuff, like one of the ones in Town Square, like they made him a painter and gave him a little easel.
Where's Nasty? I'll torch him.
Go after some sheep first. Those little creatures release butterflies, which Sparks the dragonfly eats. Sparks protects you.
Yeah, in the Reignited trilogy, they put a lot more effort into the dragons, which they couldn't really do in the original version, because technological and memory constraints and all that, and it would have taken a lot more time. But if they had taken much more time with the game, I feel like it might have been a little bit too polished. But the way they made the game, it's an absolute masterpiece. Spyro the Dragon, and the entire trilogy for that matter, stands as one of the most memorable games of all time. And when people talk about PlayStation, one of the first things that usually comes to mind is Spyro. Where games like Ape Escape and Gex are almost never talked about. But if you get in a conversation with someone about PlayStation, just mention Spyro and they'll go, oh yeah. Now, that's not to say Spyro is a perfect game. It's not without its flaws. And there are some parts of the game that are insanely hard. Though, as a kid, there was only one part of the game that stumped me. Spyro is one of those games that I don't see it ever going away. Simply for the fact that it's... with the rise of nostalgia, retro games are starting to make a comeback. That's where you start seeing all these remasters like... they made Gex Trilogy, which... admittedly, it lacks a lot of polish, partially because of the fact that they cut a lot of corners with it, from what I'm told. But you have Gex Trilogy, you have the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, you have the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, you have Nintendo putting all these emulators and stuff on the Switch to be able to emulate all their old games and stuff. But retro gaming is making a comeback, and a lot of companies are seeing that there's money to be made there. But it can only go so far. There are some things that should absolutely be redone because it deserves it. Then there are some things that should probably be left alone. Spyro the Dragon is one of those ones that absolutely deserves a remake and was done well. It's not perfect by any means. They could have done better in some spots, but for what it is and the quality that we got from it, it was definitely worth their time doing. Then you have things like, as I mentioned before, Gex Trilogy, that was supposed to be this big thing. Originally, they were supposed to put all of the different versions on it, including the Game Boy versions, the Nintendo 64 versions, and all that. They ended up cutting all of that out. And now, from what I've seen and heard, it's basically just a over-glorified emulator. But if they had taken more time with it, they could have put a lot more polish on it. And it could have been another masterpiece. Now if they could just do it with Ape Escape. Come on, Sony, you can do it. I've been waiting long enough. It's been 25 years. Please give us Ape Escape Remastered. But that's all the time I got for today. Please let me know in the comments down below how many differences you found between the prototype and the original. This has been Warevo, signing off. Thank you and God bless.